Welcome to another in the series regarding loss, grief, and mourning. In this session, we're going to be speaking about the loss, grief, and mourning from the community perspective. And the goal is to be able to help us to become more aware of the dynamics of grief, loss, and mourning, and how we are better able to support persons who may be going through a loss, that may be grieving and mourning. Okay, whenever a loss takes place, and it doesn't matter if it is something tangible, if it's temporary or otherwise, grief is an emotion that follows, and mourning is the expression of that grief. Now, typically, a loss feels like an isolating experience where, oh, this is happening to me. Okay, however, nothing is ever done in isolation. Okay, so let us say, for example, you lost something tangible. For example, a phone. Okay, your phone is lost. You are not able to find it. You ask for help. That person gets involved. They are also now affected by your loss. Your other persons who may be depending on that phone to communicate with you will also be affected by that loss, even if it is the store attendant that is going to help you to replace that phone. Okay, so here we're seeing where multiple persons are involved in that loss. And then we take it to something a little more serious, like loss of health. Okay, loss of health. Typically, persons also affected by this loss that will go through grieving are like spouses, family members, such as children, mother, father, sister, brother, people at work, etc., will be affected by your loss of health, and they will experience grief as well. So even though it may appear that it's happening to an individual, it is actually happening to a community. All right, and then for the more serious ones, the more permanent, for example, death. The death of a person will affect the community on a larger scale. This person may have been a mother, a father, may have been a sibling, may have been a member of the church, may have been an employee, may have been a friend, okay, may have been a neighbor, maybe just a very nice person that says hello every time they pass by. Okay, and so each person that this person has ever come in contact with, or a person who may have even heard something pleasant about this person but never even met them, may experience grief. And we see this when persons popular dies, like Princess Diana, uh, like Nelson Mandela, right? They may have that experience of grief as well. So we want to recognize that grief affects the community. Now, mourning is never expected to be done alone. Actually, a part of successful grieving means that persons will come together and share in their grief, share in the grief, okay, and mourn collectively. So this way, each person that's experiencing the loss, that's feeling the grief, actually feels supported, even though it may be from someone who is also experiencing that loss and is also grieving. All right, and so some of the things that we recognize with grieving is, first of all, is uh, when persons are grieving, they lose interest in activities that they're typically interested in. They are sometimes become so weak that they're not interested in getting out of bed, not interested in combing their hair, not interested in eating. Okay, and these things do not support life. Okay, persons will be withdrawn, they want to be alone, etc. And as we speak, in our next session, we're going to speak about the stages of grief. Okay, then you'll begin to understand why some of these things are, and the stage of grieving that these manifestations come in. All right, and so when a person is grieving, the community becomes very important. Okay, first of all, is the loss typically leaves a void. Okay, and whatever that void is will need to be filled. Plus, the process of mourning will also create additional voids that will need to be filled as well. And so, as caregivers, as loved ones, as persons who are, sympathetic towards the persons who are more closely associated with the loss, there are very many things that we can do, and they're really simple things too, to assist with the grieving process so that the person feels supported, and it helps actually to allow the person the time, space, and breath to grieve. Okay, because we already established that grieving is a natural process, and mourning, which is the expression of that grief, has to run its course for a person to successfully get through these phases and get back to the things of life. So some things that we can do are, number one, to be present. Yes, they may not feel like they want company, they may not want to talk. You don't have to talk, but being present, letting them know that, hey, whenever you're ready, I'm here, is very important. Okay, being supportive tangibly, at bringing them food, because they're not going to be interested in eating, much less cooking food. Okay, so bringing food is actually a very good way of expressing support for someone who's grieving. Assisting them with activities of daily living, like with house care, with child care, all right, assisting with routines that they would typically be responsible for, okay, encouraging them to take a bath, maybe running the bath for them, getting out their clothes, etc. Right? And in some instances, and this has happened where the person is actually bathed, the nurses were very good at giving bed baths, right? So you don't have to do anything, just lay right there. We'll bathe you, we'll comb your hair, we'll get you into nice fresh clothes, we'll change your bed, things like that. But these are some of the things that are really important from the family and community point of view to help the person to recover. And when they feel like crying, one of the things we want to do is to try not to console, try not to stop the person from crying, allow them full expression of their grief. Now, sometimes it's very hard to find the words to say, but if you do feel inclined to say something, what you want to do is to offer hope, continue to allow them choices, all right, and ensure that whatever it is that you do is projected to now and to the future. All right, it may mean adjusting our schedules. Okay, and by doing that, one of the things we can do to help them also is to adjust their schedules, as we mentioned before, helping with things that they typically are routinely involved with. Okay, that also helps. Okay, now there are community groups, there are churches, hospice and other organizations that provide support and grief counseling. Now, it may be necessary for persons to be directed, and this is another place of help where a person, especially if the loss is sudden and unexpected, or if the loss creates a void where someone is unfamiliar, all right, and these are things that needs to be done, then it may mean that they may need education, things like that. But now is not the time for that. Our focus wants to stay on providing the person who's grieving with assistance that allows them to grieve. And all these other things, okay, can come later in the grieving process. Once a person has gone to the point of acceptance and is now ready to say, okay, what needs to be done? Okay, in some instances, persons may need to step in to assist with funeral planning if that is necessary, or with providing alternatives, providing even financial support, which is a really big area. Where can this person get assistance, financial assistance, to continue with their life as it should? Now, an unfortunate thing is that, especially when it comes to divorce and death, a lot of persons during the process of grieving has to contend with maybe losing their homes. Okay, and this is something that ought not to be. And so the community can get together and recognize all the financial support that may be necessary and make it available to this person, to allow them at least 1 month to go through the grieving process, and then to get themselves together and make decisions about, okay, do we want to keep the house or not, things like that. But while they're grieving, they shouldn't have to be worried about being disenfranchised at the same time. Okay, so the community plays a really big role, and sometimes it's not recognized by the person who's grieving, the amount of help and support that they will need, or where to access this support. And this can lead to further losses. And in rare cases, but it happens nevertheless, the person may go on to mental illness. All right, and so the community becomes a very important part of grieving. So the next time you hear of someone grieving, all right, understand that they may be going through phases of grief that you may not understand. And even though you may not be a medical person, just remember this, if you remember nothing else. Be present, so let them know, hey, when you're available, I'm here. Number two, provide tangible support. Provide food, assist with housekeeping, childcare, whatever it is that you're able to do, and also, as necessary, financial support. Thank you for spending this time with me. I'm so excited because the next thing that we're going to be speaking about are types of grieving. Types of grieving. And we look forward to seeing you then. And I hope that you have learned something from this presentation. And if you are the one that is grieving, please remember that there are others who may be grieving with you. But if there is not a community environment, then you may not see or feel. So please reach out to someone, a community group, a church, etc., so that they can start to give you support. And for persons who are supporting others who are grieving, you want to check within your community for groups and organizations that can provide both tangible and emotional support, so that the person that is experiencing loss can have a successful grieving period. Thank you for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video.